the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 880. Involving others in personal change can cause problems. We all agree that involving others when we're changing organizations or teams, that's unassailable. The same isn't necessarily true when you're dealing with changing yourself. Understanding boundaries, what you control, all of this is important for you to own your own productivity. Today, our panel is Jeremy Berrio, Daniel Daron, Brad Biddorf, and myself. Hey, before we dive in, remember, the Software Process and Measurement Cast is sponsored by Mastering Work Intake. Everything starts with work intake. Buy a copy, J. Ross Publishing, or Amazon.com. Gentlemen, welcome to the Friday afternoon panel discussion for the Software Process and Measurement Cast. There are a number of our folks that are, again, not here, and that's cool because it's almost the end of, at least, I don't know, it's not the end of summer until the 22nd of September, right? I guess that's astronomical summer. But it's nearly the end of August, and at least here in the States, at the end of August, everybody starts to, they either go on vacation real fast or they start to really wish they had taken some time off during the summer. But it's good for them because as we discussed, work-life balance is dead. So working is really the only thing in the world they should be doing ever. Okay. Now that we tackled that last week, so we're not going to kick that dead horse again this week. Yeah, it is dead, right? I read a very interesting, I'm in the middle of rereading a book called A World Without Email. And it's a Cal Newport book. And Cal Newport probably right now is one of the more prolific authors on the topic of productivity improvement. I won't say process, but productivity improvement. And Mr. Newport has, in his, I think, 2021 book, A World Without Email, has written a fairly scathing indictment of asynchronous communication and how asynchronous communication, like the advent or when we said once upon a time we're going to get rid of paper, has only created more and more communication, more and more interruptions, and less productivity. Fundamentally, easily proved, regardless of all of our feelings on the matter. But in the chapter 4, one of the things he talks about is change. And all of us are interested in change. One of the things he talked about was if you're changing a team or a group, you should communicate and communicate openly, be forthright, get people involved in it because it helps them become part of the change, buy into that. I think, again, that's probably something we might believe when it's an individual change. If you were changing the way you're working, even if it's in work, he would suggest that the data says that you shouldn't tell anybody. You should be very circumspect about it. Only tell people who absolutely need to know, only a little bit of it, and it's none of their business. How would you react to that last one?
I can understand that. Many people are distracted by any kind of news about the organization, about their job, about the process. And so from that perspective, and this is a first blush thing, maybe there is some sense to not disrupting more people than is necessary. I'm sure there's going to be a counter argument.
Perhaps.
Well, the thing that's going to happen is that if you don't act properly or react in time, you say, hey, you were notified, right? So I receive all of these communications from my order, my CPA, my accounting order. This is a mandatory communication. Might be asynchronous, but I got to read it. So is it the case for all emails? my rule of thumb is that if I'm only a CC on an email, I won't pay attention to it. I'll only pay attention to the ones where I'm a recipient of that email.
I can buy that.
Well, and Daniel, I use the same rule. When I was director and executive for a couple companies, I told my teams, like, if you want to copy on me on the email so that at least it's in my inbox so I can take a look at it later, fine, I will, but don't expect me to read it. Only if I'm in the to box, then yep, I'll for sure read it. But if it's in CC, I'm not even going to bother. More than likely, I'm not going to bother. I trusted them enough that they could reply to emails to whomever on their own. They didn't need to, and I instilled that trust, and I told them, like, you don't need to put me on the email. I trust that you'll be able to do it as long as you're professional about it. If you're not professional about it, then we'll have a talk. But as long as you have your information, you send it out, and you communicate it without involving me, all the better, because that's what you guys should be doing. But if you're still not too sure, you just want me on the CC as like a shield, a backup, just kind of someone standing over behind you so the other person who's reading it will see that I'm on it, then didn't bother me. I would still probably just put it into a maybe look at later box or folder.
Okay, so I will. I'm perhaps the most radical of this bunch. I can understand, Daniel's point, right? If he's getting stuff from, the CPA and the association, things like that he's going to be held accountable. At some point, he's going to have to read that. More than likely, he's not going to have to read it as soon as it hits his email box, more than likely. But I understand why that's a necessity. I, for a period of time, made the decision that I would block my calendar. I would block my calendar roughly 3.5 hours every morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. No one could schedule me any day of the week in those time frames. And I would only read email. And I started this process. I read email once at 8 o'clock in the morning, once at 11:30, and once at 4:30, and nowhere else. And I never told anybody I did that. I put a message generally on if it's an emergency, you pick up the phone and you friggin' call me. Don't text me, don't chat me, don't send me a Teams message. I'm not answering. I'm working.
But a Teams message, there's a blurry line between asynchronous and synchronous communication within a Teams message.
Oh, yes, I agree. Go ahead.
There is a blurry line, and like an email, you can just basically turn it off, and it won't bug you. But if you turn off your MS Team, it's got some synchronous content in there.
But why? Why should it have any synchronous content in there? If you're working and you're concentrating, you're trying to do some work, we all know, and the data is there, that any interruption, even a ding in the background, is going to set you back anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes worth of focus.
We don't have our phones, so we no longer have office phones, right? So if anyone's going to call you, it's going to be on your cell. Fine. And I don't want people at work to know what my cell number
okay. Well,
is.
Or if you're working in a classified environment, you can't have that.
But in a classified environment, what can you have?
It's a signal.
Pagers, and sometimes there are hardwired computers that you can get messages. There's different strategies. Our chief technical fellow on the project I was on would print his schedule at the beginning of the day and would not look at any updates or any meeting requests or whatever until the next morning. And we got to know that was his strategy. And if you really needed him, you tried to catch him in the hallway somewhere. But otherwise, because he covered multiple locations during the day, and that was his way of dealing with it.
But again, I would argue that that's a really good way to deal with it, mainly because, again, if he's supposed to think, you need space to actually think. We have created offices, and Newport uses the term interactive hive mind. and that we're always interacting, always communicating, always on. And by doing that, we have lost our ability to focus. And that as this has become more and more true, what we've seen is a very significant stagnation in the labor productivity of knowledge workers. So finding ways to deal with it is necessary. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, well, I do my most productive work outside working hours. Honestly, because during working hours, I'm in maintenance mode. I got to answer to people that need my help or my advice. And there are certain types of work that I cannot do when I'm interrupted, when I need flow. So I get those done outside working hours, either early in the morning or after work, when I can basically shut down everything in a legitimate way. But if someone sends you an important email and whatever, or Teams communication, and you shut them up during the day, it can come back and haunt you.
So we go back to our conversation last week. What you've just suggested is that work-life balance is dead, and that you have to find ways of dealing with this interactive hive mind stuff in the day outside of the time. But
well, like for me, like when I wake up at 4:45 in the morning almost every morning. Weekends I sleep in a little.
You get late. So you get up late.
Yeah, 6:00 instead of 4:45. But as soon as I get up, I have my routine of sorts where get up, do a quick plan of my day, go work out, and then come home, start work, eat breakfast, start work, and move on. When I was when we were pre-COVID, this was my schedule. Wake up early, go work out, drive to work. I'd be at work by around 7-ish. There'd be no one in the office. That's when, to Daniel's point, I would get most of my productivity done. Most of the stuff I know I needed to get done, I would get done within those couple hours before everyone shows up. And then people start showing up. I would still have a little bit of work to do, but I would have the chunk of it, the main prioritized stuff that I wanted to get done first is done, knowing that throughout the day, I'm going to see potentially some emails, some calls, anything pop in. And we would have people where, some of the rules I set is, we use Slack. It's okay, you want to get a hold of me on Slack? It's almost as if you're knocking on my door. It's you're saying, Are you there? Can we take a call? We don't chat that much. It's, are you there? I want to call. Okay. Yep. Or call me in 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Reply back and forth, just to schedule a quick time. I never had a running chat going on in Slack or Teams, depending on the organization I'm working with. It's just used to knocking on the door. That's how I treated it. And then there would be times where, to Brad's point, where he had the individual kind of print off the schedule, I would block off a schedule and I would just send a blast note out to everyone saying, do not bother me unless someone's on fire. And then, I'm busy at this time. Do not interrupt. So unless it's a dire emergency that you need my help with, fine, come get me. But you're all good adults. You're all responsible. You all know what you're doing. I trust that you know what you're doing. Just go ahead and do it. You don't need me for these next 2 hours.
And I think that blocking these time slots should not be left to the individual, but it should be a corporate rules, meetings only happen between 10 and 2, and that's it. It should be a corporate rule, because when everybody does that individually, it sorts of increases the amount of the number of degrees of freedom, and it complexifies things. If it were to be a corporate guideline, meetings take place between 10 and 2 or 10 and 3, that I think would make more sense than people individually setting blocking their own time slots.
And to your point, exactly that. during COVID, when my organization, everybody went home, they decided that geography didn't matter as much anymore, and our groups were spread across the nation. And so that was literally the rule: no meetings before, depending on the time zone or your perspective on this, but it was, I think, 10 to 6 Eastern time. And so that meant for me, it was, 8 until, well, depending on which, the whole Arizona thing, which time of the year it was, but either 8 or, I can't even do the math right now. But so anyway, the point was, for me, my time to get stuff done was after all the meeting times, from 3 o'clock to 6 or 7 or whatever. And I can think of similar things past in my career when even working when I was in Ohio, that meetings would end about 3 o'clock, and we would go into the lab and get stuff done between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Again, we're back to finding compromises instead of compromises. And so I agree, Daniel, that I think that there's, in many cases, maybe organizational makes sense. I did what I did. I was in an organization when I did that seemed to believe that the whole idea of open office made sense. Most of them hadn't been alive and in the workforce, even in the 70s when there was that open office garbage. So they didn't remember how wonderful that was for concentration. And so all of that was wide open. Everybody talked to everybody at all times, regardless. If you were in a meeting, you would do text messages, those sorts of things. It was truly that idea of a hive mind. So I did what I did. And when I first told the other coaches I was working with, because I was working with teams, I didn't need, working with a person or a team of people, I need to be interrupted. I didn't need to be listening to my pager or my phone telling me that I had messages. I need to focus on them. The reality is, right, people, that when I told the other coaches about it, and I then never told them again, they got angry. How dare you do that? How dare you? It's like, well, I'm going to dare her because, what are you going to do? Fire me? Make my day, dude. And it worked, right? And the teams got enough time and enough concentration to get better. Their teams didn't. And that angered them a lot. So the point he was making was that if you tell other people about what you're doing, if you're changing your thing, if you're changing, it's your wife or your children, they will think that they have a voice in it. And if it's at an individual level, why should they have a voice in it?
I believe there's a distinction here between perhaps your role in the team, whether you're leadership or individual contributor. I have to process that a little bit more. But I think as a leadership person, more of the adjacent things become relevant to you.
Well, and for me, with individuals, if they're changing how they do their work or do something, yeah, to me, I don't care. The only thing I care about is that you're doing it in a fashion that's improving how you work and how you feel about work and how you're being motivated to work. And if it's working and you're still meeting everything that is expected of you, like if I expect code done within every 2 weeks or something like that, that's just an example, and you get it done, I don't particularly whatever's working for you and you're having a good life and you're being happy, great, keep going. If you need help, then I'll help you. We'll try to find a way so I can help you change. But if you figure it out on your own, awesome. Less work for me to worry about.
Yeah.
It's a tough conundrum, right?
Yes.
If we have to, we're all basically saying the same thing in the long run, right? During the day, we talk to people, we answer emails, we go to meetings, we do checks, and even though Jeremy doesn't do chats on Teams, Slack, or whatever, 99% of the people I've seen that have, whether it's Slack or Teams, they have all sorts of long-running asynchronous discussions going on. And some of those probably aren't necessary, but they aren't making decisions faster. They are continually interrupting people. And the only time they do get the downtime to concentrate. And so in the mornings or the evenings, Daniel, when you are concentrating, is that when you write? Is that when you do, you really do your heavy lifting of work?
There are certain types of work that I absolutely to be, close out to the world, like when I'm writing, but depends on what. But especially when I'm doing number crunching and budgeting, burn rate, release plan on my project, if I'm going to have enough money to finish, I can't make a mistake, and I need to be left totally in the dark in my bubble. Those are the kinds of activities that I just cannot do multitasking. I gotta be monotasking on certain things.
Yeah, you have to think. It requires deep concentration, and all of this interrupt stuff gets in the way of deep concentration.
Yeah, and I have a rule of thumb, when it comes to picking up the phone, as soon as you get into 3 Q&A, question, answer, and it goes in circle, pick up the phone.
Well, how do you pick up a phone when there are, there's maybe one, two person and 97,000 people have been carbon copied?
Yeah.
Well, for that, I had a similar rule, Daniel, but it was like the 2 reply rule.
Yeah.
If there's 2 emails where there's once you hit that second reply, then you pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And normally to that point, to your point that you're asking about, Tom, would be it doesn't have to be a conference call. It just be a call between these 2 people, especially if you have like a boatload of people. You're not going to schedule a meeting with even if you have 10 people carbon copied, you're not going to schedule a sudden meeting, and you're not going to get a decision made anytime soon. I've always told the teams, like, if it's 2 people going back and forth, or even if it's 3 people, whatever, then do you know what? Schedule a call. And on those rare instances where you have like the 15 people bouncing things back and forth, like going, okay, stop what you're doing. Let's get on a call right now, all of us, because this is important. Stop what you're doing, and we go. And then we get on the call. 15 minutes later, we have our answers. Okay, be on your merry way.
I'm just thinking, you said merry way, and all I could think of is Robin Hood Men in Tights, but that's okay.
Well, that's quite an imagery.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have a little riddle or something. What is the most top-notch, most sophisticated form of asynchronous form of communication? It can't be beat.
Carrier pigeon.
Huh?
Carrier pigeon.
Asynchronous.
No cigar. No cigar. But you're in the right neighborhood. I'm going to give you the answer. It's a message in a bottle.
Okay.
That one beats everything.
Close.
Yeah.
No, you're flying too high, man.
No, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Message.
Close.
No, you're not even close, man. Message and a bottle beats you. Can you admit that?
Well,
come on. Never mind. The pigeon has to know where it's going. Okay, it's been trained. Okay.
Okay. Shit.
Okay. So, do you think the bottle has had any training?
No.
Okay. So, there you go.
So you're hoping it's all based on hope. There we go.
But that's the point of asynchronous communication.
How much more asynchronous can I be?
That's very true. Okay, yeah. You win.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I wanted.
Not typically a goal.
Our problem is that we have created communication structures that, because, picking up the phone is becoming harder and harder for people to do. And not only, it may be even hard to walk down the hall, even if you're in the same building. I used to work with people who sat next cube to cube, one cube, and then right next to them in another cube. And the only way they would talk to each other is that they would send emails and carbon copy everybody in the whole world. It was horrible.
Tom, I'll remind you that you had a previous guest, Tim Lister, right, who was one of the co-authors of Peopleware and talked about the distance factor. And you've taken it down to the extreme, but I think he had some things saying if you sat more than 30 feet from each other, your chance of interacting was much declined.
He's right. If we're going to tackle productivity, we need to find a mechanism to actually concentrate. How do we do that? I mean, I've heard some good ideas, right? The 2 and 3 rule. I've heard, Daniel, does his hard work before and after. You basically said the same thing. We get out of meetings at 3 and work until 7 in the lab. Is that what we're down to? Is that what we have to do unless we make our own set of rules and try to force the issue about saying, you know what? You're just not allowed to talk to me unless somebody's, to use Mr. Barrio's analogy, unless somebody's on fire, you're not allowed to talk to me for certain portions of the day. Or is that a hell too far?
No, because we're agilists. We're here to try to make things better for like how we work, right? And so setting up these rules, like the rules I set up, the ones I explained throughout this session, like I set those up so that I'm not working 10, 12 hours a day. I can get my work-life balance. Okay, we can go back to that later. But I want my life and I don't want to sit there and work 12, 13 hours a day. So I set these rules up so that I can get there. And now with that, there were some days where, there was one day, I think I worked 20 hours one day. That was a pretty, bad things happened that day. And there was no way I was getting out of it. But that was few and far between. Even like the 12-hour days were few and far between. Probably at most on average, probably 8.5 hours. I'd be in the office or I'd be answering emails. Every other time, it's, okay, I got my life. I got my kids. I got my jiu-jitsu. I got my wife. I got my dog. I'm happy. This is who I need to focus on. I got myself. I need to focus on myself as well. So I don't think there's one hard and fast rule or one set of guidelines that's going to help everyone. Everyone has to figure out what their own guidelines are. I think we have some good suggestions and ideas for people, but I think they have to take it upon themselves and see what works for them.
But Daniel would suggest that you can't do it by yourself. You have to have some sort of more structured approach.
Yeah, I was going to say, even in the 1980s, I remember when we first started implementing what we called at that time critical chain or critical path, right? And there were symbols to indicate you could not talk to certain people. You could not call them during certain hours of the day. Back when the technology was new, they got what we used to call spy phones, so they knew who was calling, and they would only answer if it was someone within their team. And that was done until the critical element was completed, and then the token went to somebody else, right? So what's our modern equivalent of that?
I don't know that there is.
Or do we have one?
Well, for me, it's quite easy because I am a very blunt and straightforward person. I just straight out and tell them, don't bother me. I'm sorry, I'm busy. I got work to do, just like you got work to do. And even I just ran into this with my oldest son while he was going to school. He's very, you have to tell him what to do. I guess before, as he was growing up, he would always ask the question, "Oh, can I do this? Can I do this?" Like, okay, yeah, just go ahead. You're on your own. You can figure it out. But he's still doing it at his 19 right now. So where I'm pushing him now is like, do you know what? You're 19. You can figure this on your own. So either you're going to fall flat on your face or it's going to work. Don't rely on me because I'm not going to be around all the time. And you are going to be moving out of this house sooner rather than later, I hope. And you're out of my hair. So you're going to have to figure this out. He didn't particularly like how blunt I was because he's not as blunt as I am, but I had to I do understand. I do recognize different people's behaviors and how they understand, but this was getting to a point where, okay, do you know what? I can't play Mr. Nice Cop anymore. I have to kind of give him that shove.
Yes, and at some point of time, you have to say, what part of no is it that you don't understand?
Oh, my grade 12 high school teacher, chemistry teacher, he said that all the time. He also had a board of education, which was a 2x4 that had education. Mr. Hartman, God rest your soul. Oh, you got me ready for university for sure.
Well,
and at some point, you've got to pull that line. You know, what part of no is it that you don't understand?
So no has to be no has to be part of our vocabulary. But we have to have no in our vocabulary in a way that it's not always an interrupt no, right? So I that whole idea of the flag, there's got to be something. There's got to be something such that you can concentrate, so that you can get the work done, because delivering value is really, it is actually what we're all employed to do. At least, some of us are there just to help lubricate that. But the teams we're working with, their job is to deliver value, not to have meetings. I mean, I actually told my kids that. I was being somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but I did, took out my schedule at one point and showed my kids my schedule online and said, my job is just to go to meetings. That's all I do. And then I do all the budgeting and all that stuff, just, like you were describing, Daniel. At night, after they went to bed, and I would stay up all night, and then the next day I'd feel like garbage the whole day. But regardless, I don't think we're going to solve this problem. It just is that, we've presented people with a number of ideas. Some of it's going to have to be organizational, but I think you have to wrestle with this at whether it's at a team or an organizational level. Any final thoughts that people would like to add to the conversation? Brad, anything you'd like to add to this that we didn't talk about on this topic?
I'm struggling to think of more things. There are places to have the interrupted communication, but yes, trying to focus on the value-added things and put most of the energy into that is important. As a side thought, a lot of things are not value-added, and that's another way to get the efficiency up higher.
Bingo.
That's another day.
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, anything to add?
No, I think we've kind of, much like the work-life balance, I think we beat this one bit to death. I think the only thing I would say is just to figure out, like, for anyone from an advice perspective, would be, what works for you. You know what's going to help you get through the day. Use it. Do it. See what happens.
Daniel?
So coming back to your part about talking to your kids.
Yeah.
There's always that line, what part of no is it that you don't understand? But when they ask you a question, like, weren't you partying when you were at my age? And I'm not saying yes and I'm not saying no, but you're staying home tonight.
Well played.
Oh, I've had those conversations too. And they're like, Dad, weren't you out in the field somewhere? It's like, yes, I was. And there's no fields around here, so you're stuck at home.
One of my mother's favorite sayings, do as I say, not as I do.
Learn from my mistakes.
And that's all we can do, right? That's all we can do is help people learn from our mistakes. Gentlemen, this has been fabulous. It's been a wonderful and I think very useful conversation between us and if the listeners would like to chime in on this one, we'd love to hear how either you're solving the problem or whether or not you think, you know what, we just have to all do this asynchronous stuff all the time, and the four of us on the call are just going to have to grow up someday.
What?
Nah, well, I think
I resent that.
Yeah.
I resemble that remark. Yeah,
You say that as I change my background picture to playing baseball.
yeah.
I noticed. I noticed that, but I didn't want to say anything,
You were coaching,
Right.
yeah. You were coaching. You play. So Brad plays baseball. He does old time baseball.
Vintage baseball, yes.
Vintage.
Rules from the 1860s.
Or you can smoke and drink on the field?
What's the rating we're keeping this podcast?
I'll clean this part up. Yes.
But yes, in the old days, apparently the umpire arbiter, as they called it, would, in some cases, I'm told, would get an easy chair between third base and home, and they would give him a stein of the finest beer that community brewed. So
I don't see anything wrong with that.
the home team usually wins under those rules.
I think there's some universities out there that do stuff like that too.
Well, gentlemen, I am going to go bake some bread for the week. So I'm going to go do that and call it a week and actually shut the laptop down for a little while.
Excellent.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm working on my most complex Excel file that I work on every year, which is my fantasy football drafting file.
Oh, good luck.
Who
I also maintain the history for our league. It will be our 37th year of this league. So,
Wow.
Holy.
So when are you going to be
Tom,
up here?
I'll be in Ohio next week again.
Next week? Well, hey, I'll actually be in Ohio next week. So let me know.
I'm traveling with my buddy Jeff, and we have a very packed schedule. But if there's some opportunity, we'll check in with you. We're hitting
Please.
baseball games in 3 cities, and
Well, you have a
two
ton of
halls
fun.
of fame.
Yeah.
I need to slow down. Retirement is killing me.
Gosh. In the next software process and measurement cast, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? It's the time of year for celebration and introspection. Why? Because if not now, then when? The SPaMCAST 881 will post in 2 weeks. We're getting close to the end of the software process and measurement cast. Let me know your thoughts, spamcastinfo@gmail.com. And remember, if process improvement is a never-ending journey, why would so many people ask, are we there yet?